you can change, once you can use scientific facts to, once you can incorporate scientific facts into your conceptual framework, and you can, once you do that, you behave differently, and you actually do literally see the world differently. Right. So, for example, like if you've read Sherson's book *Scientific Realism and the Plasticity of Mind*, here's a very interesting example, which I can attest to, having learned it from him back in grad school, that you can, in a way, once you know that the planets and the Earth all revolve around the sun, once you know that scientific fact, then as you're stargazing, if you tilt your head a little bit, you can actually see the ellipses. You wouldn't see them that way if you didn't know what you were looking for. But once you know what you're looking for, you can incorporate that fact into your perceptual uptake from the world. So picturing can't be cordoned off as a just subpersonal machinery inaccessible to behavior. Right. And it's like, in many ways, I've been getting very interested in using 4E cognitive science as a tool for understanding and picturing. Right, because then you can understand picturing not as something that's just under the hood inside the brain. You understand picturing as a sort of as these brain body environment feedback loops, which we don't normally attend to, but we certainly can. So if you, so the line of thought I'm trying to pursue is picturing is just the cybernetic stuff without all the communal stuff, right? Where you don't have to sort of be a member of the community. Like, there's certain ways in which you have to be a member of a community to understand what the rules are of the community, right? So you have to have, and so your own behavior is guided by your understanding of, as a member of this community, I'm doing X because that's what we do, right? So your understanding of your own activity, your first person awareness, is socially mediated. And the cybernetician is going to be abstracting from that and just only looking at, well, what are the patterns of behavior? And those patterns of behavior, of course, will involve not just the outward behavior, but also those loops of behavior will also involve what's happening inside the brain, and will also involve what the cybernetician takes to be real ontologically. And that, of course, will depend on the cybernetician's own ontology. Right. So the cybernetician might say, so you can imagine, say, aliens, sufficiently different from us, that they don't lack, they lack our kind of sensory equipment. So they don't detect phenomenal properties the way that we do. But they're still able to say, look, you subject, subject certain patterns of radiation to their, when their sensory organs are able to perceive these kinds of patterns of radiation, they're all going to respond by making the sound red. And the reason why they do so is because of the interconnections within their brains. So, the alien cyberneticists who are examining us, right, describing our behavior, will be able to see that there are real patterns that we pick out using words like red. And they might very well be able to describe patterns of neuronal interconnection that will say, oh, isn't it kind of interesting that they're using the same sounds when they talk about wine and anger and communism? All the Sellarsians agree that the normative is ineliminable from our self-understanding. right? And that's why I think it's an interesting question to say, well, what would the systems theorists then say about themselves? I think actually, if we had a longer version of this course, I think it actually might be interesting to compare Sellars with Gregory Bateson. Interesting on how to uptake cybernetics into a self-conception. I think one of the ways in which Sellars is, I think, limited is he just says, well, the picturing is just this third-person perspective. But I think he doesn't, and his entire project, particularly the joining of the manifest and scientific images, requires him to have some sort of story to tell that is, if not Batesonian, somewhat similar to Bateson. So sociality enables conventions, but the heuristics, the discussion about the two of disagreement, yeah, I think that's something like that's gotta be right. That you can think of rules as sort of, on the one hand, internally, as, well, this is what we do as members of these communities, where that first and second persons are extremely crucial, understanding rules sort of from the inside, as it were, right? Rules, as Sellars puts it, written in flesh and blood. You can also, of course, you can understand rules from a more outside point of view, right? Whereas you're understanding rules, but if you look at rules from the outside point of view, is in a way not to see them as rules, but to see them only as behavioral uniformities.